Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. Billings police have located the subject of a search after reports of a man trying to grab children in public places across Billings.
Now, Billings police announcing just about 30 minutes ago that the man they were looking for has been found. He's been identified as a 73-year-old Billings resident.
Now, the incident remains under investigation and police say they have yet to determine the man's motives.
Q2's Samantha Sullivan following the story for us tonight. She joins us now with more on these incidents. Sammy?
Well, Russ and Jeanelle, all three incidents happened in just a matter of 3 days between April 18th and April 20th. The first incident was reported in the area of Antelope Trail West in the Heights. The next two both happened miles away at Optimist Park on the south side. In that first incident, it was reported that an elderly man grabbed a 4-year-old's hand and tried to walk away. The child's older sibling then intervened and the man left. The next day, a man approached a 5-year-old at the park and asked the child to jog with him. That child refused, and then the man again left. On April 20th, the man approached another child at the same park, grabbing them and trying to walk away. The child's mother then stopped him, and he reportedly apologized, telling her he believed the child to be his grandkid. Now, as we mentioned, Billings police have located the man, and at this time, investigators are still unsure if the man had criminal intent or is just suffering from something like Alzheimer's, dementia, or another type of mental illness. Russ?
All right, thank you, Sammy. Well, the surviving suspect in the murder of Broadwater County Deputy Mason Moore can forcibly be medicated to stand trial. A judge making that decision this week after hearing expert testimony earlier this year. Lloyd Barris had originally been found unfit to stand trial after doctors said he suffered from a number of mental health disorders. Authorities accused Lloyd Barris' son, Marshall, of fatally shooting Deputy Moore during a pursuit near Three Forks in May of 2017. The father and son then led law enforcement on a chase that ended with the son being killed in a shootout near Missoula. The order stated that Barris had initially been found mentally unfit to stand trial in a similar crime in California, but was also found to be competent there after taking medication. Now, to medicate Barris, doctors are required to follow appropriate safety measures and monitor him for possible side effects. Barris has been charged with 5 felonies in the shooting death of Deputy Mason Moore, including a deliberate homicide by accountability.
Well, as anticipated, Montana Governor Steve Bullock is planning an announcement soon on his future political plans. And as MTN's Mike Dennison reports tonight, the governor has set a pretty ambitious goal.
Governor Bullock isn't talking publicly yet about his future plans, but MTN News has learned that in a couple of weeks, he'll be announcing that he's running for president. The two-term Democratic governor would join a field that already includes 20 Democrats who are competing for their party's nomination to challenge President Trump in 2020. Bullock's announcement won't come as a big surprise. He has a political action committee called Big Sky Values, which has been funding his political activities at various locales around the country since late 2017. The 53-year-old Bullock also has campaign-related staff on the ground in Iowa, the site of the nation's first presidential nominating caucus next February. A Big Sky Values PAC spokeswoman told MTN News Wednesday that Bullock is a progressive champion and tested leader who has been highlighting his clear and optimistic vision for the future. Some Democrats have been pushing Bullock to challenge Republican U.S. Senator Steve Daines next year, but Bullock has said he's not interested. Montana State University political science professor David Parker told MTN Wednesday that Bullock is certainly a long shot as a presidential candidate. But he also said Bullock has a compelling story to tell about succeeding as a Democratic governor in a Republican-leading state, and that Bullock could argue he has appeal to rural voters, particularly in a state like Iowa. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. Now, Bullock cannot run for re-election as governor next year because of term limits.
Have you noticed a startling increase in the cost of your homeowners insurance recently? If so, you're definitely not alone.
Well, a new survey indicates over a recent 9-year span, homeowners in Montana saw their insurance rates jump 61%. Q2's Jay Cohn is here to tell us why. Jay.
Well, Jeanelle, Russ, the main culprit for the startling increase, the frequency and severity of natural disasters nationwide. I'm talking everything from hurricanes to tornadoes to wildfires and floods. Yes, in this new age of climate change, severe weather and natural disasters seem to be the norm rather than the exception, and they've led to a jump in home insurance rates in every state over the past decade.
You know, when those top insurance companies like your Allstates, your State Farm, Farmers, Geico, and Progressive, when they're experiencing billions of dollars of loss across the country, you know, it's the homeowners that really end up footing the bill at the end of the day.
Now, this new Quote Wizard survey compares annual home insurance rates from 2007 to 2016. Montana, you see, listed 21st in the country for the percentage increase. Now, a homeowner's policy that cost $430 back in 2007 cost $1,130 in 2016. You can see here how Montana compares to our neighboring states. North Dakota and Wyoming rank 18th and 19th in the survey. And again, the big culprit, those natural disasters, nearly 2/3 of home insurance losses, the result of wind, hail, and water damage. And the states facing the stiffest increase, well, those are those in Tornado Alley, where Oklahoma, Kansas, and Colorado all saw insurance costs jump more than 70% since 2007. So the next time you watch that severe weather taking a toll across the country, keep in mind it's taking a bite out of everyone's pocketbooks. And the one thing homeowners can do, well, you can shop around and make sure you're getting the greatest coverage for the lowest cost. That's precisely why Quote Wizard conducts surveys just like this one. By the way, you'll find a link to that survey in this story at ktvq.com. Jeanelle?
All right, thanks so much, Jay. The number of confirmed pertussis cases in Missoula County jumped to 24 today, the majority reported in public schools. The superintendent says students have tested positive for whooping cough at 5 schools across the district, each of those schools now identifying all close contacts to determine any immediate action needed to get other students medical care. Now, it should be noted students who have been vaccinated may still be considered contacts because the vaccine is not 100% effective. Now, more cases of whooping cough have also been confirmed south of Missoula in Lolo and Florence.
New information on the theft of life-saving gear from a Billings firefighter.
Well, it turns out some of the gear was anonymously dropped off early this morning, but not all of it. Roughly $10,000 of gear was taken last week from a Billings firefighter's personal truck. Crews tell us a bag showed up at 7 a.m. right at shift time with some of the stolen gear inside. Now, the bag was laying on the ground between Station 6 and a church in the Billings Heights. The rope bag with a harness, gloves, and similar items were inside, about $4,000 worth.
Now, however, a rope climbing helmet, firefighter structure fire helmet, and an infrared air mask were not returned. Police are still investigating. Well, with the question of protecting Yellowstone National Park grizzlies still in legal limbo, on-the-ground wildlife managers say they'll just continue bear research and preventing conflicts along the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem. Those charged with managing bears on the Northern Divide are meeting this week.
That doesn't mean that the work that we're doing right now to reduce conflicts and to take into consideration expanding grizzly bear populations isn't a live conversation for us. The recent establishment or setting up the Governor's Advisory Council on grizzly bears is an effort to have that conversation more broadly about what would the state of Montana and Montanans have us do about grizzly bear expansion outside the recovery areas.
And that's going to be at the heart of the effort by FWP and other agencies again this summer, with bears wandering far out onto the prairie east of the Rocky Mountain front and showing up more frequently in communities on the west side of the divide and even into the Bitterroot. Biologists say efforts will continue to make people more bear aware to try and limit conflicts.
So the monitoring occurs both with collaring efforts, where we have individual bears that have radio collars that we can track their movements, but also monitoring is with sightings and confirming sightings. And anytime we have any conflicts, we monitor and keep track of all those conflicts and the type of conflict and where they're occurring.
They're also talking about enhanced efforts to try and limit crashes with grizzlies in vehicles after 17 bears were killed on local highways last year.
Well, this month ushers in a new era for Q2.
Today, our station, along with our sister stations across Montana, are now under the ownership of the E.W. Scripps Company. For more than 30 years, Q2 has operated under the ownership of Evening Post Publishing. Recently, the owners decided to sell the broadcast television side of the business, and the sale to Scripps became final today.
The Montana acquisition also includes our stations in Butte, Bozeman, Great Falls, Helena, Kalispell, and Missoula. Now, Scripps is a national broadcast company with a commitment to journalism and serving the community.
Well, coming up on tonight's 5:30 News, Montana's electric co-ops tried to spark some action from Congress in order to save their livelihoods.
And in sports, some of the country's best softball is being played in Glendive right now. Scott shows us how and why Dawson Community College is dominating.
And coming up in weather, our winter storm is gone, and now we're going to enjoy the other side of average for a change. I think you're going to love this. We'll bring you up to speed coming up in just a few more minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.